Welcome to the Conquer Your Battlefield podcast, where we come together to discuss some of the more significant struggles and metaphorical battlefields that we've faced along our journeys and share some insight on how we've conquered them. I'm JD McGibney, and today I have my first repeat guest, the brilliant, the magnificent, musically talented, hilarious, compassionate, and absolutely wonderful Mr. Rob Rico. He is a solo artist, he is a comedian, a performer from epic rap battles of history, and one hell of an amazing person. How you doing, Ricky Bobby?
With an intro like that, man, I'm doing fantastic. Very grateful to have you not only as a friend, but also a talented friend who I feel I got to, because you just threw it at me, man. I got to, you're a great friend who's very smart, intelligent, who's guided me when I was just in the murky waters of starting this whole journey. Very talented individual as well.
Listen, we started, in those same murky waters at the same time. So we started the same spot. And also there's a lot of, compliments and stroking going on back and forth. So I feel like this is going to be a very positive episode.
Well, dude, even you saw the other day, I was celebrating 8 years from working at Tough Gong, which is where it started, man.
Dude, I can't believe it's been that long. Like the fact that it's almost a decade that we've known each other. Like, it doesn't feel like that to me.
We got to put that background in there for anybody listening to this. They got to know that there's a history here, man.
Yeah. We literally started like at the very beginning. It's like, oh, how do we do this entertainment thing?
And what's funny is we both ended up touring for a little bit, which is I think is cool, dude. We both ended up traveling and doing like our own like version of what our creative journey was, which I think is really badass.
Yeah, we ended up doing, the things that we set out to be doing. Like we're literally doing the stuff that we want to do. We're living the dream, as they say, but not ironically. We're literally living.
Not ironically, we are, and which is why I'm grateful to have you as a friend, because there's so many friends that you have that you're like, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make X happen, but it's very rare that you can have the friends that you actually execute that with. When you have friends that execute that stuff, you want to hang around those people because they motivate you, because you want to be like them, dude. You're one of those friends.
And, I think it's also a very unique perspective. Like we both started at the same time. We're doing pretty much the same, nodes at the same time. So it's like we can relate to one another. It's like, oh, you did this, I did this, I did this, you did that. And like it's just like an understanding that like you and I, have that, like, even when we talk to like, people that we look up to or people that are like just starting out, it's like there's different perspectives, but you and I are like on literally the same life notes. We're like changing the pegs at the same time. So thank you for being my friend.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm great, and I'm grateful to be here also, man.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you back. Good. There you go. Be comfy, because today we're going to be talking about something a little serious. Not that everything else we've talked about on this podcast isn't serious, but today we're going to be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. And for those that are not fully aware, PTSD is a mental health condition that's triggered by experiencing or witnessing a terrifying or traumatic event such as war, assault, rape, or physical or emotional abuse. Symptoms of PTSD are usually grouped into 4 categories: intrusive memories, avoidance, negative changes in thinking and mood, and changes in physical and emotional reactions. These 4 categories have a wide range of manifesting, from having regular and vivid flashbacks of the event to avoiding people, places, or environments that remind a person of the traumatic event, or even the development of depression or feelings of emotional instability. Rob, you and I were recently talking, and you mentioned having personal experiences with PTSD. How have the symptoms manifested for you, and how do you feel that it has affected your life?
Yeah, man. So, heck of a question to start with, man. So, and I say that in a great way because we can just like dive right into this. So, to preface it for myself, and even just for the whole thing, everybody, like you just mentioned, has their different forms of it. There's no specific scale of 1 to 10 of how traumatic it can be, no matter whether it's emotional, physical, mental, like whatever the facet of it is. So for myself, when I was 16, me and my brother got into an accident that it was really pretty crazy. I'll dive into it a little bit later, but the
You're talking about a car
TLDR of the
accident.
whole thing. A car accident, yeah. But it was the whole experience. I was knocked unconscious for like a moment. I lost my memory. Me and my brother flipped a few times. But we got out of it without a scratch. But then our police were involved, which goes into a whole nother thing. So trying to meet with my father afterwards when a situation like that happens. He was taken into the back of a police car, and that, when you're 16 years old, you think you're older than you really are,
Yeah.
and that was like a whole emotional thing. And so I wasn't right in the head when all of this was happening, which it took me moving to Chicago to realize, when you kind of have to face these things when you're older, that a lot of things that had happened when I was younger, well, mid 20s, 23, 24, 25, which even came up to recently as 28, 29, start affecting you. So how it started affecting me, I noticed, when I was about 23 or 24, maybe 24, 25. I knew you from Top Gong. I was working at the
Yeah.
comedy theater,
Yeah.
very regularly. Yeah. I was pretty sober for a while, and I say sober. I never did hard drugs or nothing like that. But just as far as like smoking or
You,
alcohol.
yeah. You're saying you
Mhm.
weren't doing like much of like anything in general.
And yeah, exactly. It's like, so I was, for the most part, very straight minded,
Yeah.
But I noticed it started happening um around that age when I would work at the comedy club, and I would start experiencing like sensory overload.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that those were like, yeah, I didn't realize those were like anxiety or panic attacks, because
Really?
I'd even be, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'd be in an environment that I was familiar with, but then out of nowhere I'd start experiencing like this sensory overload, like, oh, yo, what's going on? And I'd start having panic attacks, tightness in the chest, and I'd be like, I gotta get out of here, which then started manifesting uh in my regular life more, with paranoia, things like that. I would go on trips with my girlfriend in Las Vegas, and this is the biggest one that I was like, yo, this is something I should pay attention to. Went to a club for the first time, and I'm like, oh, this is fun, this is great. But the same sensory overload happened, where I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta get out of here. Things start, you should get that tightness of chest, because it's not right. Um, so that started happening. Isolation when I was in Chicago, um, and just the whole gambit, taking unnecessary risks and things like that. At least that's like the tip of the iceberg. I could go on for hours, but
Yeah.
those are just some of the, like, those were like the key moments as I was getting into adulthood, because I'm 29 now.
Yeah.
So
You're very much an adult,
this
physically
happened when I
speaking, at
was
least.
16. So that's like, yeah, exactly. Physically speaking,
Yeah.
this, no,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think it's
but
fat.
yeah, and
I think it's
that's
important
when I
to
start.
point out right now. You saying like this traumatic event happened when you were 16. You were a kid. And like you didn't start
Yeah,
noticing these patterns, these behaviors, these reactions until you were 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 years old. Like a decade pretty much went by before you're like, oh, what's going on here? And then you're like, oh, wait, there's, there's this
hmm
bigger thing going on, that's
hmm
like triggering all these very intense emotional reactions.
exactly. And what's crazy was, which is what kind of made it tougher, was it was around the same period of time that I started touring. So I'm on the road regularly for 2 or 3 weeks, in a car, sleeping all the time. So all these like mood behavior switches and stuff like that, I'm thinking it's completely common. You're on the road, it's just a new lifestyle. But then you go back, and you're isolating each of these incidences, and you're like, oh crap, there might be something going on here. And which led me to, like, read more books on it, and just like coping and things like that.
So I'm curious, just because on the surface it would seem that being around the large crowd, say like at a club, or like being at the comedy club, uh, how did that end up relating to you in the car accident situation? How did the clubs and the massive amounts of people, the large amounts of people, relate to what you went through with the car accident?
So that takes it back to like a really specific moment when the car accident happened, and I still remember the entire thing, dude, which comes back into like intrusive memories and things like that. I remember the whole entire day. It was my our niece's birthday. It was her first birthday or something like that. So we're very happy. We're celebrating. The Chargers played that game. They had an amazing comeback and won. I was in a very good mood.
Well, that's a good thing that
But it was
happened.
our
Two
birthday.
good things on that day.
No, exactly. So it was a good thing. And my thing is always, if too many good things happen, better watch out. This is a prime example of that. I now truly live by this.
All right then.
Yeah. But anyways, anywho, the moment that really kind of what stuck was when me and my brother were driving, when we were going through the intersection, we got blindsided on my side, and I got hit in the
Oof.
head in the initial moment of impact, which wasn't significant, but excuse me,
It's still a
it
head
was it
injury.
was hard enough. Exactly. And it knocked me unconscious, and it wiped my memory of that day in that instance. So in that
Jesus.
second, I went from like, oh, normal to like in the movies, dude, just like bam, whoa. And I got lucky enough, dude, that like my one remainder of like brain cell, whatever that was active, is like, dude, earthquake, cover your freaking neck. So the only thing I remember is impact, and then I just come to rolling in a car with my brother, just like William, Bill. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, tumble, tumble, tumble. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So it's like, imagine coming to, and you're just in a fucking, excuse my language, in a metal box, just like, what the hell is going on?
Jeez, I
So
can only
that's
imagine
that.
like how fast the person was going to make the car roll because I'm assuming you were on like
Mhm.
just like a major like intersection in Los Angeles, like a flat area.
Yeah. Well, this was back when we lived in the Antelope Valley. So this was like
Oh, okay. This is not in
our
LA.
version of, yeah, which is almost more dangerous, I want to say, because it's not traffic streets. You're always going at a steady pace. And he hit us fast enough that we went tumbling. So I think to answer the question, sorry if we keep going doing these
Yeah, no, no,
asides.
no. Don't ever apologize. Like go where the conversation's gonna go.
Yeah. Is that initial moment of coming to in chaos, that initial moment of just like of just being bam, you're here, you're back on Earth, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
So
And I
it's
think just those instant. Mhm.
so basically it's just the initial like you came to with sensory overload in general. Is that what you're
Exactly.
saying? So like any kind of sensory
Yeah,
overload is what was triggering you. Is that what you're getting at?
yeah, exactly. And like those instances at the clubs were just moments where my brain interpreted it as chaos
Because
and
it
like a
was loud and
flashback
there's a
of.
lot going on.
Yeah, and
I
if
see.
and I can be in a loud environment. You know that. If I'm aware of everything that's going on, if I know this is why this is happening, this is why this is happening, you know,
Because your
I
brain's
think
able
those
to logic
instances.
all the pieces together instead of just being bombarded going, oh my God, what do I go for first?
Exactly, exactly. You're good at articulating this for me.
Listen, PTSD fucks you up. Just saying, like
Yeah,
having, having your mind have like just a strong emotional response to something that it processes as traumatic or like dangerous or not good. You it's trying to make sense of a situation. If there's a lot going on, if your brain automatically goes to like an emotional perspective instead of like a logical one to like
yeah,
dissect it, it kind of makes things difficult to like work through.
yeah,
So like I very much understand the what you're saying.
yeah. And just for like the sake of like like or not even clean slate, but just like so. Let me just set the stage for you as like the exact event that occurred.
Please.
So me and my brother, we drove through the intersection because it wasn't even just a car accident. I'm telling you, it was an entire experience, smorgasbord of fuckery that was just unfortunate to happen to me and my brother.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just the initial impact of the car, because we came to in a car that was completely totaled. We were lucky enough that we had no scratch on us. So then it's almost this level of like, what? Like, this doesn't make sense. And so we climbed out of the car window. We were lucky enough that we weren't far from our home, and that's when our father came.
Mm-hmm.
He initially was very, very scared because he sees his two boys in
In a
this
car
totaled
that just got
car.
fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing I remember, because this part's a little fuzzy because it was just so close after the impact, is I remember the ambulances being there and then being like, "Do you want to go to the hospital? Do you need to go to the hospital?" And because I'm lucky enough that I'm like, I can feel myself, I can walk, I'm okay. I was like, no, I'm fine. And then, but that was the moment that this connects to another form of the PTSD. Was I'm skeptical because I was, when it happened, was in fight or flight mode. Me and my brother I just came to, and I just know we're in a wrecked car, so I'm like, I can't freak out right now because maybe it'll explode. I've seen Grand Theft Auto. That's the only thing I can relate to this. It's like I just know cars explode after they get hit. And so I'm like, I can't freak out right now. I'll even tell you, I love my brother to death, man. He reached over because remember, he didn't hit his head, so he knows what happened. He's like, holy shit, we just flipped 3 times, dude. What the hell is going on? I didn't properly interpret that because I didn't remember the moment of impact. So I got out the car, I climbed out the car, and I'm like, okay, the car isn't going to explode. And I swear to God, dude, I can pinpoint that was the moment that I was like, okay, now I can freak out. And I looked at a random dude who was there, dude, and I was like, can I hug you? And he's like, sure. And bawled my I bawled my eyes out, dude, in the random strangers, because I was like, it's that moment of like, I didn't know what was going on, dude. I'm 16. I'm like, and I'm crying. And then this was the cherry on top. It was after that whole thing happened of them asking if I wanted to go to the ambulance. I was like, I just want to see my dad. I just want to see my dad. And that was when I saw my dad getting put in the back of a police car.
Dude.
The police saw my dad. Yeah, the police saw my dad. They thought he was being too skeptical or whatever, which is horrible.
What?
Exactly.
What does it even mean?
Which is which again, now as a grown man looking back at that, like, it was horrible, dude. And so they put him in the back of the police car. Yeah, dude. They actually put him in the back of the police car. And I remember I was getting so frantic that I think Bill, because remember, he was good. He was good, in a good state of mind. Yeah, he didn't hit the head. This random lady, dude, God bless her, dude. I don't even know whatever happened to her, dude. She saw the state of mind that I was in. Our car landed in front of her apartment. Our car literally landed on the grass in front of her apartment. She goes, young man, come in here. Yeah, she takes me inside. She has Waterboy on. I'll never forget that. It's a good movie. She says, you need to eat something. She had some chili. She gave me some chili. And so then, while I'm in there, my dad was in the back of their police car for like 10 or 15 minutes, dude. So for 10 or 15 minutes, my dad hasn't seen his children. He doesn't know what's going on with them. He just sees a totaled car. So for 50, imagine like you have your 2 kids and you're just like, for 15 minutes, you're like, oh my God, are they dead? Are they hurt? Are they paranoid? What the hell's going on?
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, right? How the fucking police would handle this bullshit, dude. And and you can see me getting riled up about it now, dude. This is for 16 years I've had this. Just,
I mean, that's literally the definition of a traumatic event. You had a like life or death situation, and then like you don't know what's going on. You're emotional, and like you see your dad getting put into the back of a fucking police car. Like I can't even imagine what your dad was going through in that time. Like knowing your dad for almost a decade at this point, it's like your dad's like one of the nicest guys on the face of the planet, and he's literally like the biggest supporter of you and your career, your passions, like the fact that you wanted to get into entertainment. Your dad's like, yeah, I anything you do, like he's always there. Just like the amount of torture that man must have been in that moment. Like I can't even fucking like imagine it.
Yeah, dude. And see, it's and that's the crazy thing is for myself, it was psychotherapy of kind of maybe borderline exposure therapy, depending on how you interpret it, but of trying to relive it and rethink it in my head of like, okay, is this why I felt this way? Okay, but then also this happened, so maybe I feel this because of this. It was looking back at so many emotions to process at once for a young man. And one thing was for anyone. Yeah, exactly. You're right. Of course. Yeah. For anyone. And the weird thing was, we're talking about like the different levels of PTSD is coming out of it without any physical scratches. Then you're like, well, I have to be okay. I have to be fine. Right. I can walk. I'm okay. I mean, like 5 years, 3 or 4 years later, I actually have like back problems and stuff. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, it's like it's a better understanding of
it,
you
and
know.
Especially in the moment.
That was a lot right there.
That was a lot, and like you said, like just being in the heat of the moment, you're not going to take into consideration, the emotional damage or the emotional scarring that's happening like right then and there. Like this is stuff that's going to come out. Like you said, you didn't even notice a lot of stuff until almost a decade later. Like you and I had already met by the time things even began to like show up, which
Manifest,
is like
exactly.
It's like that alone is like it's crazy. And that's one of the things about PTSD too. Like if, people go and do some research, is that like PTSD often won't show up right away. PTSD will start showing up later on. So like something happens, it's not going to be like, oh, the next day it's like, oh, I'm going to like flinch at this. It's like, a week, a month, a year, a decade later, you're going to be like, oh, what's going on here? Why do I feel like I'm having a panic attack when I'm sitting behind the wheel of a car, or when I'm sitting in the passenger seat of a car? Like
making decisions or some stupid crap like that. Like the things you used to feel so most comfortable with. Like I knew, dude, like I knew something was going on when I would start having trouble making decisions, and that was something I had to work on. And it was as simple as me and my pops would be driving, and I swear to God, he'd be like, do you want Carl's Jr. or McDonald's? And I would literally sit there, dude, and be like, I like Big Macs, but Carl's Jr. And I literally, dude, just for it's something as minuscule as that. My brain, it wasn't even just like, oh, I can't decide. My brain physically couldn't process a decision. I'm like, what? Like, dude, it's fast food, dude.
It's interesting. Was that like in general, or is that because you were in the setting of being in a car?
It could have been that, dude. I never thought of it also being in the car, but it's also happened just like in a lot of instances like that, dude. Indecisiveness, like just an ability to make choices for myself, which I think in some a little bit of ways has affected my career a little bit, because
you definitely have to be able to execute a decision in anything.
Yeah.
So I
guess you're right. Yeah.
I totally understand. I very much relate to that as well. Now, another question that I want to ask is like, it sounds like you've done a lot of just like soul searching, like on your own. You've read books, you've read articles, you've done your research. We're having this conversation now, and I'm assuming you've had this conversation, with other people, in the past like decade since you started noticing things. But have you ever like gone and talked to like a therapist about the situation?
So that's one thing that I'm kind of like been building up towards, because for myself, for like my journey, and I feel always a little weary saying this. It kind of in the Latin community, it's kind of like I said before, if you can walk around and you're physically fine, if I can dance and laugh, it's like, do I need to see a therapist? Which was something that again was a personal thing that I was like, crap, I've been stopping myself from this amazing resource for so long. I'm only hurting myself.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, a part of the research is a lot of people start doing self-medication, whether it's alcohol or other types of drugs. I fell into that a little bit in Chicago when I started being like, oh crap, this is coming back. A little bit with alcohol for a while, and like smoking for a little bit, which wasn't good. So I for myself, I love therapy. I think it's amazing. For myself personally, I do a lot of psychotherapy, just because it's how I feel comfortable with my personal stuff. But one of my New Year's resolutions this year is to kind of take that step now that I'm about to be 30, of like, all right, I've held on to this for 16 or 15, almost 15 years, and I'm still
literally
holding on
half
to
your
it.
life, man.
Yeah, shit, yeah, literally half my life. Clearly, I need someone else's help on this,
and like the fact that like you were saying, like in Latin culture, in the Latin community, it's just kind of like frowned upon, and it's a big thing too. If you go
Stigma,
to like old school like European, like the old country thoughts, so like old Italian or Greek or like German, like you don't, the idea is that you're supposed to be tough and like
tough.
Like nothing can get to you, and like you're not supposed to show weakness, so you can always be like dominant and whatnot. But like the truth is, like things have been popping out in the last 5, 10, 15 years, people are starting, especially in like, modern Western culture in the United States or even in Europe now, where the old country used to be, like people are starting to recognize that like, oh, we all need to like see a therapist from time to time. It's like going to get a physical, like your doctor, like once a year. It's getting like your checkup, or like, oh, you have a cold, or you got, something going on with your thyroid. You got to go to like a specialist, and mental health is very much the same way. It's like, your brain's an organ, it just so happens that it manifests itself through like, motivating our actions, our ability to use logic, our ability to show feelings towards others. So it's like, it makes sense that we have to go and like get that checked up on, periodically, beyond just getting like, an MRI or a CAT scan to see how it's physically shooting off and whatnot. So like,
exactly.
I think you right now, like making that New Year's resolution to go and, be, get past that stigma that is around, like you said, like the Latin community. I think that shows a lot of strength in you specifically to be like, you know what, I recognize that this is the mentality, but I don't think that this is for me. And you're recognizing that you need to have the assistance of someone who is trained, a therapist, a licensed therapist, come in and kind of like help you work through whatever it is that you've been carrying, like you said, literally for like almost half of your life.
Yeah, man. And what's crazy, dude, is I never even looked at it as that variable of half of my life. Because even interpreting it like that in my head in this moment is like, you don't deserve that.
Like, yeah, I mean, no one deserves to carry around that amount of emotional trauma without any kind of like resolution or like closure.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, man. I'll be 100% real with you. I actually was doing pretty good for a while. I really was, because as far as the timeline of events, when I moved to Chicago, it was an amazing opportunity, and even a little bit before that, I coped with it a lot. And if we're gonna talk, if we take a moment to talk about how that happened, like, dude, we're lucky to be musicians, because for myself, dude, I found an outlet, and it was music, like, and it was, dude, being like, I've got this song about this, I got this song about this, but in my head, I was like, is this song worth making happen? Do I is it, excuse me, is it trying to be like, oh, look at me, or is it like, no? And then I got lucky enough to, well, one day I found a beat, because this is how I make my music. I found a random beat that I was like, you know what, this really makes me feel towards this thing of, and I grabbed the pen, dude. I did it in one sitting, dude, and I was lucky enough to write a song. It's Ballad of Pagliacci, dude. That was the one, dude, that I was like, I want to talk about this accident, dude. And it was somewhat vague, but it talked about the stuff, because that first line, dude, I'm looking in the mirror, where did the old me go? I'm stepping out my street clothes, and I'm still not free though. And that, it was me being like, oh, like, I'm starting to feel crap, man. I know who I used to be. And I did, dude, I really did. When I moved back initially, was feeling great. I got past it. But then I told you before, I got hit by another damn car walking across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that was like, hey, remember those intrusive thoughts that you did so good of kind of like shoving away for a while? Well, let's bubble that back up.
They're
and
still
then it's
here.
like, and you know what else? Yeah, it's like, they're still here. And guess what? Pandemic. Blah. Have fun with that, big guy. Yeah.
Dude.
So I was like, oh, great.
You're literally locked in a box with just those thoughts.
Yep. Dude, this isn't a podcast with me as your guest. It's me sitting next to my thoughts right now.
Well, hello.
I'm just the voice box for my thoughts right now.
Well, dude, thank you for sharing them. They're more than welcome to, be here, and obviously as well as you are. It's absolutely, like, man. This is, stuff like this is like important to talk about. Like, I've known you, like we just said, several times, is like the better part of a decade, and like, I think you told me this story once last year or the year before. No, it was a year and a half ago, like right in the middle of like the height of the pandemic, because we were just talking about the all the stuff that was going on with like the police and Black Lives Matter and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you focus mainly on the fact of like your dad was thrown into the back of a cop car because he was freaking out that his two sons just got into a fucking car accident, and they put like they were just like, oh, sorry, you're emotional, get in the car. And it's like,
yeah, and I told you that's where my distaste for the police. Yeah, dude.
It's like, but like now that we're like going into this story like more in depth, there's so many different layers and like so much to take in. Like that alone, just saying that is like, okay, that's traumatic. But the fact that like you hit your head, you blacked out, you just woke up and there was utter chaos around you. Like the car, like you didn't even know which way was up, basically.
Yeah,
with like
the
car
really
fucking flipping. And like you see your dad being taken away, like this random stranger like hugs you, some other lady is like feeding you chili.
Trust. Yeah.
And like you're with your brother, and like he's Bill's older than you, right?
Yeah, Bill's
so like
Bill's
he's
driving.
older than you, but still he's a kid.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. We're just two kids, and this happened, and we're just tripping out, dude. Which is why I'm glad we're able to talk about this, so people can realize, if whoever's watching this, that there's different forms of PTSD. You don't have to get out of it with a freaking broken arm. You don't have to be coming
severed
back
arm.
More.
Yeah,
or a severed arm. Yeah.
PTSD is literally just a post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you have any kind of emotional stress, whether it is strictly emotional or it is physical, which leads to an emotional, like that's what it is. You got into a serious, almost deadly car accident with your brother.
Yeah, man.
And then you also witnessed, extreme racism on against one of your closest family members while you were like dealing with the fact that you almost just died. And some random woman was kind enough to give you chili.
Dude, I swear to God, dude, to this day, I'm pretty sure she saved my sanity, dude, because there was so much craziness going on that she was the one. I don't know how to articulate this, because even when I talk about this like a lot, I get a little in my head. But even in that moment, she was the one saving grace. Like if that didn't happen, the entire experience for me would be 100% pure trauma. But in that moment, there was a single human who saw the lack of humanity in my eyes, because I was the same height that I am now. I was that same height around back then. So I'd like to, I feel like they saw that and they were like, oh, that's a man. He's fine. But she was the one who saw a freaking young man who's like, what the hell is happening right now? And dude, she took the time out of her day, dude. A car's on the front yard to freaking like
she treated
sit there and be like
with compassion and like focused on that, because that's what you needed in that moment.
Exactly.
People like that, I think, are like wonderful, and it's just like people like it takes a lot for anyone to just recognize, especially in a moment of like, a moment of tension, a moment of trauma, a moment of like danger, to maintain that level of humanity, that level of compassion towards people. Because like I can only imagine you had fear, like you said, you had like the fight or flight, that you had fear and rage like emanating from you, plus the fact that like you probably had a concussion.
Yeah.
And like she was just, it sounds like she was just very calm and just like, here, take this, eat, relax. Probably said don't go to sleep, and just kept you calm and safe until things could like de-escalate and come back down.
Exactly. And dude, she didn't have a lot going on for her either. She didn't take me into this like amazing, crazy, nice apartment. It was around the holidays, and she was like by herself, dude. And I was just but she was like, take what I have. She's like, what little I have, take it, and please be good, young man. And she helped me, dude. And if somehow, some way, shape, or form, the world has its ways, if she's watching this, you saved a young man's life and allowed me to get into music.
we're gonna be very thankful to this woman, whatever her name was. She's definitely sounds like she was a metaphorical, literal angel on earth.
Yeah. Watch she's actually got like 7 DUIs. Like she actually was like
the only reason
that'd be horrible.
She wasn't. Oh God.
She's on house arrest. Watch that's actually what's going on. No, I'm just kidding. I see. I'm still lighthearted, man. Which honestly, dude.
You gotta be.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's what, dude. Like straight up, it's one of those instances, dude. Actually, before that, and then we can go into all your other questions, man.
Yeah.
I was into football. I played piano. Excuse me. A little bit on the side, but thank you. But dude, I was all football, dude. I was practicing football. I was playing football with my cousins. Where they were like, dude, they would throw bullets at me, and I have to catch them. And I'd be like, dude, I'm gonna play football. I'm gonna play football. But then this instance happened, and I hurt my shoulder. My back was messed up, and I was like, all right, yeah. And I was like, all right, I guess no more football. And I guess someone upstairs was like, all right, dude, you took too much time on that. Let's gently steer you back. I didn't even hurt you, dude. Let's get you back over to this music stuff. You know what I mean?
I guess I'll do that. This is fun, dude.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess rapping works, I guess. But yeah, dude. So that's how I started learning into coping, dude. I started rapping a lot, dude. I started freestyling by myself a lot. I had to find beats.
I remember you're like when we first met, like we were talking and like we were just kind of getting a feel for one another and kind of like getting to know one another. And obviously I like metal and everything. And then you had brought up, I think, when you first started getting into performing rap, you started, I think you said you did stuff that was a little bit more like aggressive and angry and like intense.
Yes.
I'm assuming this is in direct like relation to what you went through.
Absolutely. Even to this day, dude, a lot of people are like, your stuff's really aggressive, and they see the guy who's rapping the aggressive stuff, and they know the guy who's rapping the aggressive stuff. Like, why are you rapping like that? You're a very nice person. You can go be like Usher, dude. You'll be
such a
set.
Nice boy.
Yeah, look at this young man with his little chicks and music, and it's like, no, there is a thing that's inside of me. Dude, even for a while, I did Introducing the Kid, which is on YouTube, soon to be on Spotify. I'll plug that real quick.
There you go.
Yeah, where a lot of the music on is very depressing, dude. Very depressing. But it's because I was in a period that I was like, I need to get this shit out. It's been in here, and I gotta get it out, man. So
it's one of my favorite things about music is the fact that like you can give your emotions a physical thing, a physical form. And then you can come back and you can listen and you can just get it's out of you. Like it's been like removed. But at the same time, you can come back and listen to that stuff over and over with like, and every time you listen to it, later on, you have a different perspective and a slightly different perspective from like the last time. And like you can reanalyze the situation, or even if you perform it, every time you perform it, you can go back to that moment in a safe environment, but know that you can leave. And each time you perform it, you can analyze it and you can also feel it from a slightly different perspective. So it gives you more understanding for what it is that you actually went through.
Yeah. Dude, you know what's funny, dude, is even with music, like when I try to sit with the thoughts and try to like interpret them myself or even talk it, I'll trip over my words. I'll be like, wait, no, what was I? But the moment I put a beat to it and like, I'm not kidding, I start to write about it, I'll be like, and that's when the emotion of this went through me. And now I understand I'm angry and free. And I'm like, wait, what the hell? What? So if I'm rhyming, I can feel and interpret all of this. But if I'm not rhyming, I'm horrible. Yeah.
All right, folks. So the second half of this interview, Robert is just going to like rhyme everything.
It won't be easy, but it will be pleasing. So this is what I'll have people be squeezing their mouses and blouses. So go ahead and jump to the roof of your houses, pull up your trousers, and kill all the Bowsers. I'm gonna go ahead and crumple it up like some powders. Yep. Bam. I got it, dude.
Well played, my friend.
Don't challenge me, dude. Don't challenge me, man.
Challenge accepted.
I love it, dude. I love it.
I kind of want to see you like at work one day, like on the phones, but like you only rhyme to the people on the phone, and someone just goes, "What the hell are you doing?" You're like,
"Yeah,
challenge from a friend. Shut up.
Well, the worst is gonna happen is like, by the way, I'm just eating this orange right now, and I'm like, orange, malfunction, malfunction, haywire. Yeah, dude. But yeah, dude. I mean, just to stay on the topic of this, man. I think anybody who feels that they've experienced something like that, one, try to go to a professional to have them diagnose it. I'm lucky enough that this mine's is an amalgamation of shit that you're like, no, yeah, that's definitely a fucking thing.
Well, I think it's important. Like, if anyone goes through something that is traumatic in general, like don't worry about like a diagnosis. Just like, it's probably a safe bet to just go see a therapist, like a licensed
I'm new to
professional
this stuff,
therapist.
I'm new to this stuff. I don't know how any of it goes, dude.
Yeah, I feel like a good chunk of people are not aware. It's just, if you feel that you're like going through something, or you have like an intense emotional like reaction to things, or you feel like things could be better for you emotionally, or you literally just went through a traumatic experience, go see a therapist. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with seeing a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor. There's nothing wrong at all. It's literally the same thing as going to, the doctor for like your physical, for, if you're, getting up there, a colonoscopy, if you're going for like checking up on your thyroid, you go into a podiatrist. It's the same thing.
Same thing. And I think that's a cool thing that even the hip hop community is the same thing. There's a bit of a stigma against it recently, or not recently, but there's always been a little bit of a stigma there. But more rappers are coming out of being like, hell, even including myself, man, of like, nah, go to therapy, man. One of my favorite kind of somewhat underground rappers, Hopsin, just last year, he was MIA for about a year and a half or some or other, and he posted a video of him just being like, hey, I moved to Taiwan. I sought therapy, and he's the same thing. It's the greatest thing ever. If you're not doing it, you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that a lot of even everyone's like kind of leveling up to be like, all right, guys, we all need help,
Yeah, and there's absolutely no shame in it.
Of course, and I think it's important too, because there's other behaviors that it harms the people around you that you care about when you don't even realize it, and you just want to. No one wants that, so you just want to like make it better, And it's a long journey for everybody. Not you know what I mean.
It is. Life is a journey. You never know where you're going to go. Life throws you surprises, like this, traumatic event that you went through with like your family. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen, and then like sometimes things are more difficult than others, and we need the guidance of a professional, someone who's not emotionally linked to us, that can help us work through these things and help guide us. Because there's also a bit of freedom being able to talk to somebody that like you don't have that. There's no you don't have to worry about like damaging, quote unquote, or like hurting, quote unquote, the relationship, because their job, their role is literally just to help you work through your thoughts. So you ideally are going to talk to your therapist like you would talk to yourself.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I was in a relationship for a while where like my significant other was borderline my therapist, because even like, again, looking back at it, because one of the big things is talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is just like talk therapy. So like I was lucky enough that like I would just talk, like, dude, word vomit, like the littlest thing would happen, I'd be like, word vomit, and never even realized it was like borderline therapy, man.
Have you
that's
speaking of that, and like just like talking things through, have you ever sat down to like journal your thoughts, or just like bullet point your thoughts?
Yeah, I did that. I did that for a while. I had a laptop where I would bring it with me everywhere, because remember I was taking the bus for a while up here in LA. So, and on my way to work or from classes on the way home, any type of thought, I would just pop my laptop open. It was a small little thing. I was tick 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 tick. I would date it, and I would at the end of the week, I would look back and be like, and I would try to reprocess why I was feeling that thing. I would literally type, because I remember we had it.
I was gonna say that's wonderful. That's like a beautiful and like really helpful thing that you were doing.
Oh yeah, dude, it was amazing. I would even I would do it some for a while. I would do it if I was at home. I remember there was a time where our dog was barking. He wouldn't stop, dude. Don't know why he was barking, and it was just but it was getting me frustrated, but not in the reason of like, man, cut it out, man, you're bugging me. Like, hey, okay, I get it, you're but it was just like it was deeper than that for some reason. And I was like, yeah, dude, because my brain was just like processing it for some reason. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And I had to start typing like Jesus, I just want to just jump off the freaking balcony because the dog just won't stop right now. Da, 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 da. And I went back like 5 days later, being like, wow, you were borderline manic or just like ramped up in that instance, you know? So it's crazy like that, man.
It's crazy how like if we are like, brought up to like a certain level, how like little things can like trigger us, and like we get so enamored with that little thing instead of like recognizing what it is that's really bothering us, because we're like, most cases like avoiding something, or even like even if we are like focused on something, like we're upset about something, we're angry about something, and we could still get like annoyed by like little things like that, like that are going on in our environment.
Yeah, that is a huge thing, is recognizing triggers. So my triggers, if it's a bad one, dude, if it because we're people, we're humans. If it's a person who like I know I just can't handle the conversation with you. Every time I've talked with you, you make me want to behave this way. I gotta cut you out. I was talking with my friend recently. She actually made me recognize this. One of my triggers is bad drivers. Like one of my biggest triggers. Yeah, exactly. But the cool thing that they helped me interpret was I never get, because I drive a lot. I drove full time for 2 years around the country. I don't get necessarily what gets me flustered and angry. You can rear end me. I don't give a shit. I get angry because I think about how this person's driving can affect someone 2 weeks from now if they accidentally hit someone because of their driving, or them hitting a kid. That's what boils my blood. That's one of my biggest triggers.
I think that's interesting because when we were having the conversation about your whole experience with like the car accident, you set the stage with what happened, and like the whole chaos and just like being unconscious for a moment and like tumbling around. But the biggest thing that seemed to have the most emotional impact for you was seeing your dad, who was not directly in the car accident. So it's interesting that your biggest concern with bad drivers now is how they're going to affect somebody else who is not there in the middle of that car accident.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I see, again, it's another one of those things that like I never linked one and one together, dude, because it's just, you don't, because dude, because when another layer due to what happened that day, the dude who hit us, it was a Sunday afternoon during the holidays, football just freaking happened. They never gave him a sobriety test. The dude was okay. Yeah, they never gave the dude a sobriety test to be like, dude, were you drinking or anything like that? So it's just all these freaking things that I'm like, and another thing was I never saw the dude face to face. Never saw the dude face to face. The dude hit us. He never walked over to be like, hey, are you guys okay? Are you guys all right? I'm so sorry I hit you. Never happened, dude.
Dude, are you
we had to take him to court. Swear to God, dude, we had to take the dude to court, and the dude, our lawyer, almost didn't even take our case because he's like, it's too uphill. Yeah, exactly. It's too uphill. It's not gonna worth it. So we had to sit there, plead our case. When we finally made it happen, we had to serve the guy. Never even saw the dude.
He T-boned you, and you flipped and almost died.
We flipped 3 times, dude. Dude didn't even, to my knowledge, didn't even acknowledge our existence. So that's why, again, getting ramped up right now, just thinking about it, that's where the animosity, or like another variable of this animosity comes from. Because when I see people driving like that, there's selfishness involved. There's just selfishness, beyond like, oh, I need to get somewhere fast. It's like, no, dude, you're only worrying about yourself. There could be a small child that just happens to run in front of your car, and because you want to go fast to be cool, or they're dead. You know what I mean? Or they could be affecting another family, like happened to me.
Yeah, no, that's
I gotta take my headphones off. That got deep.
man, like there's
I'm
so
letting a
much
lot
to
off for
unpack.
you today, man.
Yeah, like I don't even know what to say. Like there's so much to unpack, like emotionally. Like there's a lot of things that physically happened, but like trying to understand the emotional depth of like what happened during this whole thing. And it's not just the car accident too. Like it's like what happened directly afterwards. And apparently, I'm assuming months after, with taking the guy to court and having to fucking plead with a lawyer to say, hey, we almost died. Take our fucking case. Like that's insane. That's insanity.
Yeah, dude. It took a few years
so
of our
many
lives,
thoughts.
dude. It was, yeah, dude. Which I think this is great for your podcast, dude. So people can really get like this raw, like they're getting some raw shit right now, dude.
And this is stuff that like it's not uncommon. Like there are car accidents every fucking day, like everywhere. And then there's cases that are similar to yours every fucking day. And then there's situations where people have this emotional trauma that they have to work through every day. And it's like it's
people
terrible
that this
by
the police, dude.
Yeah, people that are mistreated by the police every fucking day. And it's like it's traumatic, but like it's okay. Like, it's terrible that this stuff has happened. Don't get me wrong. Like it should never happen. But like it's okay to be affected by it emotionally. Like it's okay that you feel intensity. It's okay that you can't process it. It's like talk about it. Work through it with your friends, your family, your loved ones. Go see a therapist. It's okay. Like you right now being on on the podcast and like being open for the public to hear and for everyone watching to see, this is a big thing. It's like people who are watching this are getting a real life example of what happened with you, and like that's a lot of stuff, man. And like knowing you as being literally one of the happiest people on the fucking face of the planet in any circumstance, like just knowing that you went through this, like you, Bill, like your dad, like I can't even imagine what your mom was thinking. Jesus, like it's
crazy, man.
It's a lot of fucking baggage that you're carrying around, and like I didn't even know for almost a decade that like you had this even happened, because it was just like, oh, this guy is always so fucking happy. He's literally on cloud 9. I'm pretty sure he was born there with a fucking golden rattle, because he's just like sunshine and rainbows.
It's a misinterpretation a lot of people get, dude.
Yeah.
No, man. I mean, it's like we were saying before, dude. It's a horrible experience. Nobody should go through it, man. But you take it for what it's worth, and you learn from it, and you just learn. You go every day, day by day. I think about like I still, to myself, I'm like, you know what? I lived through it. So you know what? Let's keep going, man. And I still think about the other people who have had worse instances, who couldn't take it, who couldn't. I mean, I'm not saying we took it to court because like, oh, well, let's try to get some money. Our pops was legitimately like, no, let's, we got.
Yeah, you almost fucking died.
Yeah, it's hard for me to interpret that still, but like it sucks thinking about the people who have gone through, in my opinion, worse stuff, by whether it be by law enforcement or people they care about, or just whatever instance it is. It's crazy that the people go through this and they don't and they think they're okay, right? Not that you're not, but they don't realize until later, like, oh crap, this is something that I'm coping. Even right now, like when I get ramped up talking about it, and it's hard to properly articulate things because the thoughts come at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, and you're going through and reliving that moment, so like you're feeling all those emotions like going on, and like. Yeah, that's why, like, what you
dude,
were
if I
doing
showed you
like,
the picture,
dude, I'm afraid to even like look at those pictures, like. But like you said, like if you were to like have those feelings, like write them down, like you used to do with like your thoughts, like when you're on the bus, just like whatever was going on in the week, you can work through it. This is my mime for typing, by the way.
It's a huge ass keyboard.
I'm just really tiny. So like if you were to like write all this stuff down in the heat of the moment, like get your thoughts out, step back for like like 30 minutes, an hour a day or whatever, and like come back and read what you wrote down, you're like, oh, this is where my train of thought went. Like that, it's like that's just a really good bit of advice that like that you gave. You know, if you were to go see like a therapist that might give you something like similar, like in the heat of the moment, okay, write down what's bothering you, or like at the end of the day, like what bothered you, you know, throughout the day, you can have the freedom to feel what it is that you're feeling, work, and just write it down so you can come back and analyze it later at like a moment of clarity.
Yeah, that was a big help. That and writing music, man. Us being able to have outlets as musicians.
Definitely. Dude, art is a fucking powerful thing, man.
Oh yeah. And that's why, dude, I love just writing music. I love it.
Well, keep writing music, man. I'm like I very much appreciate and love everything that you put out, because like, I love you as a human being, and like I love the fact that you are so candid and honest with the stuff that you create. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's a powerful thing.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. We're lucky enough to be able to tap into something deep inside ourselves and put our truest selves out there, man. Us as artists, both of us, man, are lucky enough to be able to do that.
It takes a lot of chutzpah, as my grandma would say.
Yeah, chutzpah. You got something in your throat? You got something in there? You got a little frog in your throat, bro? Hey, get the chutzpah. Gesundheit.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, let's get vishnikid. Anyway,
Robert, I can't make too many jokes. Yep.
Rob, thank you so much, for taking the time and opening up so candidly, especially with like, such a traumatic experience, such an emotional experience. I think for the people who are dealing with PTSD, or the people who are looking to get a little bit of an understanding of how PTSD can affect them, like you opening up today is a very beautiful sentiment in the fact that like you're showing that how it's affected your life, literally for almost half of your life, how it's affected your family, and like how you've able to like work through it, and how you're starting to face the reality of what you went through. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing this, and thank you for sharing it with everyone that's watching.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for letting me talk about this, man. It's something honestly near and dear to my heart, man. Thank you for being dope. Thank you for being an amazing friend. And yeah, man, just keep kicking ass at everything you do, man. And I love watching you do what you do, man.
And I love the fact that you are part of some of the things that I do. So thank you.
Hell yeah, brother.
I truly believe that the more that we as a society feel comfortable opening up about our struggles, the more it will help others to realize that they are not alone. Everyone has the inner strength to face whatever life puts along their path. So thank you, Robert, for chatting, and thank you to everyone that has tuned into this episode. If anyone watching finds that they are struggling with their mental health, please do not be afraid to reach out to your friends, family, or a mental health professional. I'll place a link in the description of this video that will have some information and connection to further resources. And until next time, remember, you always have the strength to conquer your battlefield.